Battle of Endor. There's only one more level left, at least of the official ones. So, first of all, cutscenes. Since we've got pretty elaborate cutscenes, what can you tell us about them?
Unfortunately, I can't take credit for these. These were done by Tobias Richter. They're actually the first cutscenes he did on the game, and they really came out quite nice. Tobias has a lot of experience flying around big, huge, heavy ships, so this was perfectly suited towards his skill. He really outdid every expectation that we had. It's really quite impressive.
What's the trickiest thing about capital ships and animating them, or large amounts?
Well, the speed issue of just working with such a massive amount of data. You guys are seeing all these ships moving around at 60 frames a second. When we're working on them, we're lucky if they move at 6 frames a minute. And I'm not. It's seriously. Everything here has been optimized to move really quickly, and the data we work with is a lot, I guess, dirty or messier within our application that we use to animate. But the thing is that they're very slow, and they move like gigantic whales, and it's really hard to make that seem exciting.
What's different in terms of because you see it even in the cutscenes in the game, something which I really like. What was different between the ILM shots in Jedi and in Star Wars?
Well, Star Wars was originally done in 1977 with technology that pretty much didn't exist till they invented it. And by the time Jedi came around in 1983, everyone had pretty much learned how to do everything. John Dykstra had perfected the motion control camera and had gone on to do Battlestar Galactica and stuff. And he really knew how to fly a camera around and put in layer after layer after layer of elements to really give a sense of dynamic motion. It's more instead of just something happening in front of the camera, it's the camera and the what we call actors interacting with each other.
Mhm. So it's just the camera movements are much more dynamic.
Much more dynamic than just sheer numbers of things.
Yeah.
Luckily, we don't have to composite.
Yeah, which the movie guys have to do, yeah, or had to do at the time. Tony Wong, who was one of the programmers on the project, you did the enemy AI. What's different about these enemies compared to previous enemies in a flight game?
I guess one of the main things is normally the VLD just push down the pass rather than follow and sort of do most of the movement. Whereas with these guys, they're working out where it's where the target is. If they're being shot, they'll know that and they'll try and avoid it. So I guess it sort of makes these VLDs, we don't have to account for the variable. And I guess it makes it more responsive, more immersive because they react more to what the player is doing as opposed to some set time of the LDs per time.
Yeah. Al, how many of these intelligent guys are you using, and how many classic ones are in this battle?
Well, I mean, we definitely couldn't have recreated this spectacular battle of Endor without Tony's awesome AI. I mean, we have about maximum of 40 flocks going on, Imperial and Rebels.
Flocks are these super intelligent AI things?
Yeah, they're just, I just set them up, let them go, and they just do their thing, and it definitely gives us a more dynamic, action-packed type of feel than just stuff running on its flying.
Where does flock come from? As in, why is it called a flock?
I guess from that's where
Yeah. So they behave like birds, which means they've got a leader, and everybody else is according to certain rules, is following the leader. Yeah. Okay. How long does it take to stage a battle like this? I mean, how many enemy craft are in here?
I think if we showed every single one of them all at once, we have at least, let's see, probably hovering around 100 ships. So we are pushing a lot of stuff around, and it's just GameCube is just amazing how much stuff it can push around at any one time. I mean, previous games like X-Wing Alliance or any of the Holland games, I mean, they were pushing maybe 30, 40 ships at a time, and we're just blowing them away with what we got here. I mean, we're able to do the full squadron attacks, plus all the capital ship combat that you see in the movie.
What else is special about the Battle of Endor? Is it just the sheer numbers, or?
Well, I mean, basically, I wanted to recreate the sheer epic scale of the battle from the movie, but also show sequences that the movie didn't really elaborate on, such as the initial attacks on the Star Destroyers. And so in the second sub-level, you do engage 2 Star Destroyers for the first time, and you actually see Admiral Akbar's Home 1 capital ship, basically duke it out with the 2 Star Destroyers. So it's something you didn't really see in the movie, but I wanted to elaborate on.
But it's heavily suggested in there, right?
It's heavily suggested, but it's something, I think players would enjoy being around at least.
Yeah.
Huge capital ship battles.
I'm here with Mike Keith, who has programmed all of the controls in the game, which means if you don't like the control, he's the person responsible for it. If you love it, or if you've never thought about the controls, which would be the best thing happening, then he's also responsible for it. Maybe what's the secret of a good game control?
Well, basically, like, it has to be intuitive for anyone who picks it up, and that was the main difficulty for the two that we were trying to do a full 3Ds like that, and yet have intuitive 2D controls.
Yeah. What makes a flight game easy to control, and what's the hard part about it? Because I mean, I remember that a lot of people were after Rogue Squadron were saying the controls were great, now do space. So we did space in Naboo, and a lot of people didn't get to grips with the space controls. So what's the big difference between a landscape below you and the space level?
The main difference is that this space, there's no real frame of reference for the player. And the big difference really is just being able to work out what the player wants to do in those situations, and without any kind of frame reference, it's very difficult.
So basically, what's the maximum control level? What the normal person understands is it's basically car control, right?
Yeah.
So as if you're on a street, just transposed into air.
That's right.
And then in space, the trick is the 360 degrees that you can fly everywhere.
Yeah.
But you would still expect car controls.
Yeah. You basically have to be able to work out where you are at any point and where you want to go, and with full 3D space, that's really good.
So specifically, I mean, players probably think they are playing with the same control the whole time, at least if you succeeded. If we succeeded in together with QA in designing that. But in reality, we've got a couple of different controls going on, right?
Yeah, and there's two main different controls, one for space levels and one for high maximum control levels. And in some levels there's actually a combination. The main difference is that with this, say like with space levels, there's no real frame of reference for the player.
But what happens if there really is one, like in the second part of Death Star 2, and it's a confusing one?
Well, in second part of Death Star 2, what I did was, well, what we did was certain parts of it where it came into a real 3D environment, it switched over to the space controls.
So basically, when you're going down, for example, and you're suddenly not in a car plane control thing, then it's space controls. We also have Chris By, who's level designer on Death Star 2. What was the specific problem? I mean, the surface thing is a variation of the first level with the pressure of protecting the Falcon.
Right.
But the second part, of course, was the much more challenging. What was so problematic about it?
In terms of control, you mean, or
not so much control, everything. I mean,
everything. Yeah. Well, basically, Jamie Ermacher, one of our LDs, was good enough to. He spent a lot of time doing research and putting together all these little segments of the DS2 tunnel, and we knew we had to take a modular approach to the tunnel. We couldn't build it all as one long thing, so we had to build it in segments and then assemble those and sort of mix and match them. The biggest challenge for me was actually trying to work out the Falcon, its path through the tunnel, and also the TIE fighters, because that stuff had to be very dramatic. We wanted the Falcon and the TIE fighters to sort of roll and do all these crazy things in the tunnel while just narrowly missing obstacles. So that was quite a challenge. And also in terms of control, we wanted to surprise the player by introducing a bit of a vertical element. So there's this one segment of the tunnel where you go straight down. And as Mike